Where's
Do we have a goat?
Where's our goat?
Jeff.
There.
Hey!
I don't know what happened to the goat. The goat was sleeping.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever, however you are joining us. This is the I Speak Jeep podcast presented by SFJ4x4.com. My name is Neil with Simpson Family Jeeps.
And that over there in that orange thing that should be in the closet again is Jeff Tremonti, the producer.
The Italian Stallion.
We're going to talk about what the mad scientist Scott Brown is wearing and what Neil is wearing in just a moment, because I'm stuck in the pumpkin orange and left out.
That's what Scott's referencing, is that Jeff, seated with me on Grandma's couch, is still wearing last year's signature spooky season hoodie, which is, for those of you who know, you got in on that. We make a hoodie for one time only. And when they're gone, they're gone. We're not making any more. So that spooky season hoodie was last year's. I repped it on a couple of the podcasts this season, and I wore it out a couple different times. Obviously, you've lived in yours since September.
Mm-hmm. Probably true.
Yep. Yep. But anyways, that's what Scott's referencing. Mm-hmm. And we've got a pretty big program ahead of us, but
we do, and I'm going to jump right to the comments to get it started, because everybody's in the comments. Daddy Jeep got the first with good morning prior to us even actually going live on camera.
Right. That's right.
So then you got Michael saying good morning, Joe O'Brien saying good morning, Derek saying good morning, and Giaga Jeeper saying good morning.
Good morning to all of you. Thanks for joining us. And a friendly reminder, if you are listening in your ear holes, you're out driving truck, you're working on the assembly line, you're scheduled into a fake meeting, we appreciate you prioritizing this program as part of your infotainment in life. We love it. Without you, this kind of wouldn't have any purpose. We'd sit around and talk with each other at lunch anyways. That makes sense. But understand that you can always join us live at 10:19 a.m. on Facebook or YouTube, where we're streaming live, and you can jump into the comments and share. And we read and respond to most of them. Not all, but most of them. And certainly if you're, jumping in saying hello, we'll typically give you a shout out and say hello back. So feel free to make that part of your morning routine at some point in the future. So we've got a cool program today, right?
We do. I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be very interesting, because we're going to be talking about Jeep linguistics. So this is the continuation of the art series.
The art series.
So the first Monday of every month, we're doing the art series. This is the art of Jeep linguistics, and we'll talk about some of the vernaculars that you hear as a Jeeper.
And as we get into that vernacular, as Jeffrey so appropriately put it, make sure that you like this episode, you like the program in general. Give it a share. Give us that 5-star review. We love hearing from you and seeing those reviews come in.
And join us on Patreon, because this week I'm going to SEMA with Greg, and there may be some exclusive photos that we put up on Patreon before anyone else sees it.
Yeah, for sure. And make sure you share this program with a friend, another Jeeper or auto enthusiast that you think just would get a kick out of the time spent listening to us yammer about the automotive community. And Jeffrey said he's going to leave here and jump on an airplane.
Well, I'm going to leave here, run home, process this episode so that our listeners can actually listen to it on Wednesday, and then drive back, meet Greg, and go straight to Pittsburgh to fly.
Yes.
It is going to be very hectic as soon as we end this episode.
So best of luck to you. Safe travels. We appreciate you guys going and representing, and obviously picking up some interesting things while you're down there. And we look forward to seeing the content play out on our social pages, and folks who are listening in should be able to come over to our social pages and see some general stuff as well.
So I learned something last year from there, as Greg had a battery pack and Davey had a battery pack for their cell phones to keep extra battery in the phone. So this year I actually have 2 battery packs with me so that I can make sure that we are able to provide content throughout the days that we're there without running out of battery on the phone.
I absolutely learned that lesson the very hard way. And I mean, there was definitely a season where I had a battery pack, I had a charger, and then I ended up getting like a 6 or 8 foot cord so that I Because the one year I had like a foot cord, and then I'm stuck by the wall. You know.
No, I did. So I have one that's a solar that has a cord, so I can hang that on the backpack and let it keep charging the whole time. And then I have one that's MagSafe, so it'll literally just clip to the phone when I need to recharge.
Nice. And as SEMA members, which SFJ 4x4 has been for many years at this point.
And we didn't know what that meant till last year, but
Well, no, wait a second. We just didn't do a great job of taking advantage of that. But you have that nice space, which is the members only space, where you can actually charge your phone. And we were a SEMA member probably 5 years ago, and I was huddled up next to like one of the only outlets where people were like scavenging and like hissing at each other to access the charging port. Meanwhile, just I don't know, a half a mile away within the same huge building, there's this lounge space which has all the chargers and all the USB ports.
Yeah.
So best of luck to you, and we look forward to that.
I do have to say that I'm very jealous that I don't get to wear this nice new hoodie on the way out there that you have already got covered in dirt on your sleeve. What did you do?
Oh my gosh. This is why we can't have light colored things.
This is why I only put this on right before we walked in.
I know,
the
that's exactly what That's because we're actually in an actual work environment. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so we've got something going on here. We've got our special seasonal hoodie.
Yeah.
Right? And this year, we let the spooky season hoodies ride, right? And those of us who prioritized the purchase of them last year have them. We had one or two left over. A couple lucky individuals got that hoodie this year, but that's it. Done. No more, right? But this year, we have a little bit of a debate internally.
Yep. I refuse to have any Christmas on my Thanksgiving hoodie because just let us eat the turkey already, please.
Whereas I actually really like the spin that they put on to Neil's hoodie.
Well, that's because there's Halloween on there.
So
well, that's probably true, but it's Halloween chasing away the other holidays, in my opinion.
And you know what the funny thing is my wife is on Team Scott. She too, Thanksgiving is one of her favorite holidays.
So what is Team Scott's hoodie? Let's talk about what it actually is.
So we appropriately have a JL with a turkey. It's dressed up as a turkey. That's what it is. And other than the very light color, I'm going to totally ruin at some point. I'm in love with this.
And it does say stuffed with adventure.
Yes.
That's a fun little saying.
As
and
it should be.
They internally named it a jerky because it's a
jerky.
Jeep turkey.
It's a jerky, right? So Team Scott is a jerky, which
the only way we could make it better is to make it actually a JT. The wheelbase needs to be just a touch longer.
Yeah, and so in the design process,
kind of like a turducken, but with a Jeep.
Correct. That's what I've said. It was like a turducken, but it's a Jeep. I don't know.
I'm here
Jerky
for it.
fits. We'll just stick with jerky.
It's a jerky.
Yeah.
So Team Scott is a jerky, which says stuffed with adventure, and so it gets you a pretty solid Thanksgiving Jeep inspired.
Which I don't know why there's so much controversy. Everyone loves to eat. So why do we just skip over the poor Thanksgiving holiday? I'm here for the underdog.
That's true. I mean, and I just saw a meme this morning where it was like, just so everybody knows, this is Christmas, which started November 1st. And then Thanksgiving was 3 days. And then the rest of it was Christmas through the first of the
I walked
year,
into a store in Erie yesterday and almost turned around and walked back out because it was just all Christmas the second you walked in the door. I'm like, nope.
Not here.
I'm here for it. I'm Mr. Christmas, so I can appreciate it.
I can appreciate it the day after Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So you know what? We've got my hoodie, which I'm pretty smitten with. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say on the design process, real quick. Scott actually had a heavy hand in his jerky design.
I did.
Because through the graphic design process, it was suggested to use a JK at one point.
Yes, I nixed that idea. I'm gonna apologize, JK owners, but it had to be a JL.
He did not feel like that model was relevant to today's market standards, so he lobbied for a JL and was graciously given the JL. But he's frustrated because he wanted a JT.
Yes,
but the wheelbase, which there's really no way to like the average Jeep owner is not going to know. It is. It is.
Everybody else is going to be like, oh, that's a JT or a JL. Scott's eyes twitching because the wheelbase is
The
too short.
wheelbase is very much a JL.
It's a 2-door.
It's a 2-door. It's a 2-door jerky. So my hoodie, which is obviously I'm in love with, is classified as kind of your ugly Christmas sweater inspired,
It's true.
and we've got
Probably why we love it so much.
right, and it says no matter the season, adventure awaits. Right, and you've got a zombie chasing a turkey, chasing a Jeep with a Christmas tree on top of
I'm
it.
going to say that's a TJ.
It's a TJ.
Yep.
It's a TJ. So, yep, zombie chasing a turkey, chasing a TJ with a kind of an iconic TJ, right? I feel like the TJs are almost as iconic as CJs at this point.
Yep.
And and it's got kind of the ugly Christmas sweater pattern above and below, and no matter the season, adventure awaits.
We got two different Joes in the comments. Joe O'Brien saying, I agree with you, Scott. And Joe Brilla saying, Mariah Carey frowns on your shenanigans. No, not here for it. She'd wear this hoodie.
She'd wear this hoodie. She
Correct.
would not wear the stuffed with adventure jerky. I really wanted to say jerky somewhere on the hoodie.
He got vetoed like
I
3
got
times.
vetoed on that one.
And I was just
didn't-
left out of the whole process.
I didn't want to
They
pull the
come in
boss
this morning.
card.
They come in this morning like, yeah, we're both going to wear the hoodies for. I'm like, where's mine?
You weren't cool enough.
I know.
Well, and that's the thing is that maybe as a tiebreaker or whatever you're going to be, which is obviously the hoodie I have on.
Except for I'm going to modify some things.
You're not allowed to modify. These are the hoodies that are for sale.
Yep.
This
I'm
is
not.
gonna be-
I'm not going to get the light color that gets dirty the
So,
second you look at it.
I'm going to
That's-
settle this. Do you still have Halloween decorations up at your house?
So, anyways,
We know what hoodie he's going to wear. We know what hoodie. That's no matter the season hoodie. So we're going to have these hoodies available.
they may still be in the Jeep too.
Your wife was trying to do groceries over the weekend. And had to pack around.
True story.
Halloween decorations.
True story.
So we're going to do these hoodies. They're going to be released to you for sale, and you can buy one or the other. We'll be doing special order on them. My goal is to have them in a brown or a forest green as well, because very few people actually should be entrusted with this desert tan.
I mean, I
color
like
that
I
we
like
have.
the gravy color to it for Thanksgiving. I get that, but
It's
yeah.
a great color. I'm just going to ruin it because
Right.
I just am not that disciplined.
Right. Our people are not allowed to wear these types of
No.
this colors, right? I mean, it's just
But probably the only saving this hoodie is for me to gift it to my wife and then order me a darker one.
that's probably true. So we're gonna have Savage work up the the renderings on a dark green and a brown, right?
Yep.
So kind of equally seasonal. They probably also work on a gray, just so we're all on the same page. So we're gonna release a couple colors available. Obviously, you can either be Team Jerky or Team
or
Any
you can
Season.
celebrate everybody.
So
All
what I
seasons.
so I hear is this is chicken gravy, and then we're gonna have a dark brown, which is gonna be beef gravy.
Yes.
God, I can't wait for Thanksgiving. Oh, all right.
So turkey gravy and beef gravy.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say you eating chicken gravy.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
You're
words-
about Thanksgiving and you're using the wrong words.
Words are important.
They are.
And that is why for today's
Maybe that's why I'm so
program.
excited about this episode, because Scott can't say any of the words.
Oh, he knows all
I
the
can
words.
say
I know.
2-letter destinations.
Destinations or designations?
Those
Those things?
just gonna keep
Starting off.
going.
Oh, the art of linguistics. This is not what Scott suggested, just so we're all on the same page.
Not saying that L word.
Linguistics?
Yeah. Not saying it.
I kind of want to hear you try it.
No.
No?
Nope.
How about vernacular?
Nope.
All right. So the art of linguistics. So I think what's interesting, one of the things that has been, largely accredited with us is I Speak Jeep, which is literally the name of this program.
Yes.
Which was a t-shirt that I designed in the earliest years.
Yep.
And honestly, just so we're all aware of the happy accident that what it was. We had the OG logo, and kind of a part of our community, it said, build it, break it, build it better. And, kind of everybody kind of identified with that, that saying of some manner in the automotive community.
Yeah.
It could be drag race, it could be off-roading,
Yeah.
whatever, right? So that was on the back of the shirts. And so I was poor and just started the business. And oh man, my infinite wisdom, I only printed the OG logo and that saying on the back of the shirt. I couldn't afford a 2-sided shirt print. So I only printed the back side of the shirt. And we went out on the road and we sold a couple. And people were like, well, that's cool, but it was just a black t-shirt. They were like, well, but it's just there's nothing on the front, you know? And meanwhile, I'm thinking in the back of my brain, well, I couldn't afford to even put like a little breast piece. You know what I mean? I wasn't paying $7 extra for the shirt just for something on the front, you know? So that was the number one like feedback I got. So then, you know, the next season, you know, following, I had all these shirts still kicking around. And it was one of the things that what I had always said was when I first started this, I had learned to speak Dana Spicer.
Yes.
Because they have numbers and words and series and a whole bunch of things that only make sense to people once you actually know the inside vernacular of Dana Corporation.
Yep.
Can you then kind of decipher all these other things, right? The different axles, the different axle series, the shafts, the knuckles, blah, blah, blah. So I learned how to speak that. So it was like speaking Jeep, like speaking Greek.
Well, not only that, we had a couple customers come in for just straight up knowledge stuff. Like I bought this box of doors.
Right.
And there's all these pieces. I don't know if there's something from a Chevy Cavalier in here.
Yes.
Or it's all Jeep parts. Can you please just tell me what I have? So then we also got told, well, you guys know how to speak the language of
the Jeep, right? So the next season, since I paid for all those shirts to have the print on the back, now you know, a few months later, or you know, a half a year later, I paid for the shirts to say I speak Jeep across the front.
Yep.
And man, they sold so well, and people got a kick out of them. They didn't actually care about the Simpson Family Jeeps OG logo. They didn't know who the heck we were, you know.
Yeah.
And they liked the idea that it said I speak Jeep because of the language of the Jeeps, right? Jeep community, the Jeep culture, the off-roading, that kind of stuff. And so it's just been a bit of the origination of the namesake of this podcast is this idea, the importance of words, right? The importance of linguistics. So we take a lot of stuff for granted.
Yeah.
And as the newest adoptee into the cult-like family of SFJ 4x4 in the Jeep world.
I don't know if I was adopted. I think I was just stolen, kidnapped.
Voluntold?
Yeah.
Okay. Fair.
Yeah.
He was willing though.
What are some
Guilty
words? What? I'm dead. Oh. You know what? We're actually planning a not PC family friendly podcast, which you will have to be on Patreon to access. Just so you know. So you ever thought that we were on the cusp of total chaos? Yeah. We're gonna bring a total chaos episode
SFJ After Dark
only to our Patreons though. So just let that seed plant in your mind. So anyways, guilty pleasures. So what are some words that stuck out to you or stick out to you as you know, like you needed us to repeat, or things that like you weren't exactly sure what they meant when you first started?
I mean, there's a lot. When I first started here, I think the technical words of what actual names of parts are, some of them were some of the biggest challenges, and understanding that. So like, and I see it all the time on the internet. Some of the same questions I had when I first started. What's a drag link versus a track bar versus the tie rod? You know, there's tie rod ends on some of those components, but doesn't mean it's a tie rod.
I mean, life was so much easier in the automotive community when we call it a thingamajigger.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And I remember, putting my first lift on. I had never done anything with shocks or coils. I've always avoided suspension and just taken it to a garage because it was big and scary at that time. And then as I'm doing this, I'd gotten some advice. Hey, to straighten your steering wheel, you got to adjust the drag link out. And I'm like, what's a drag link? They're like, it's the bar that goes across. I'm like, there's 3 bars that go across. Can you clarify more?
Right.
And this was actually with it was a friend of the business. Honestly, it was Dalton that I was talking to on the phone, who's loosely explaining some of these terminologies to me. So I think there's that. There's all the technical terminologies, learning those and where those go. The difference between the bearing assemblies on a wheel versus the hub assembly and the ball joint.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to it. What's an axle shaft versus an axle?
Correct. And I think what's valuable to contextualize is say, and I can always kind of tell when somebody is new to the Jeep community and if they've come from one of the other big auto manufacturers, because historically components that do related jobs oftentimes have different names within different manufacturers.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
For example, in the Ford community, you have a lot of what's called trailing arms.
Yes.
And in the Jeep world, the trailing arm is just a control arm.
Yep.
They're arguably one and the same.
Or or a panhard bar on the track bar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so it's interesting because within the Jeep community, we accept these words as the end all be all, but realistically, once you toe your line outside of specifically the Jeep community, Toyota folks call something a little bit different. Ford guys have their own, Chevy guys, and so GM guys, so on and so forth.
Yep.
Which I think is interesting. So not only do we have some classic terminology of the automotive community, which we've accepted as a non-written industry standard, meaning this is not like when we talk about standard and optional, that is actually accepted by all auto manufacturers, right? Optional means it doesn't exactly come from the factory that way, and standard means it does. Now from there's a bunch of vernacular that is, up in the air, eye of the beholder per whatever brand you're interested in. So some of the kind of the universally accepted stuff that can confuse some people is going to be 4x4 or four-wheel drive versus all-wheel drive.
Yes.
AWD. So what would you say is one of the primary differences between those, right? Because I have absolutely encountered people, right? People go, oh, they know who I am or what I'm associated with, and like, oh yeah, I got me one of these 4x4s. I got all-wheel drive, and it's pretty awesome. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like I'm here to celebrate you. I'm not here to split hairs.
And there's also the people that are like, I need to go find myself a four-wheel drive vehicle, and they're looking at all-wheel drives, and they don't understand that there's actually a difference.
Sure.
Yeah. So a 4x4 can be locked into four-wheel drive and out where you are in then two-wheel drive. And then an all-wheel drive, all four paws are moving together and you don't have to engage it.
And I think what's valuable for our listeners at home, this is meant to be a brief and general overview. Because right now,
I am twitching, trying not to go too far.
I know, because potentially there is an old man out there who goes, even if you're four-wheel drive, only two are moving.
I was just going to say, there is a difference between that, because there's also the all-time four-wheel drive Jeeps.
Yes.
And so they're...
Which are technically all-wheel drive-ish. But
they're not.
We could have an episode
correct
just about that.
Because it's a completely different
for today, that's what we're going to do.
Right. For today, you have kind of a give or take power transfer, whereas typically a 4x4 can also be just driven in two-wheel drive.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's probably the
most simplistic,
the simplest way to kind of put that to bed.
Yep.
There is also, with both of them, you would have low range oftentimes.
Daddy Jeep's claiming that he's that old man, just so we're on the same page.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. Well, you have an open differential. Open differential is a great one that
absolutely,
that I have both struggled to communicate with customers because they think it's a Jeep that automatically has lockers, because somehow the Jeep brand.
I'm going to take it a step further, because I knew the difference between an open and a locker, but a limited slip differential is not a locker.
Correct.
There's other types of devices out there that are not lockers.
Well, then if you're
so
from
what's the difference?
The GM crowd, it's a posi.
Oh, so and without falling too far down the well on this one, because this is one that we actually went rounds with a couple times with internally and how we communicate it
Yes.
out to the community.
We had to have a little powwow and be like, from now on, this will be this and this will be that. But I have one quick tie-in. I have heard from multiple older Jeepers that Quadratrack, old school 73 to 79, had limited slip in the axles. Nope.
No.
I understand it operated in ways that you couldn't comprehend, and it was a revolutionary design, but no.
I mean, if we're going to talk about that, we might as well go right to the JLJT platform and talk about the fact that the braking system makes it
Yes.
like you have a limited slip at times,
Yes.
to the point that you believe that my Jeep might have actually had one,
Yes.
and I don't. I'm
Yes.
open.
Yep.
Yeah. So, gosh, this is, and honestly, we could get sidetracked on this and not even get to some of the good stuff. But, and we have had a conversation before. And so ultimately, we call them traction devices.
Yes.
Right. But the challenge is for the very average listener and consumer, they're not familiar with the term traction device.
Yes.
So while we have professionally categorized anything other than open as a traction aid or a traction device, oftentimes you'll hear people on the most average or generic or general level call it a locker.
Yep.
And I have kind of proliferated into the world that should be okay. That if a person comes in and says, yeah, I got this Willis Jeep and it's got a locker in the back. Cool. Good for you.
We'll do us.
That's fine. You can say you have a locker.
I'm going to go to the comments real quick because we actually got a new watcher, GH Stubbs. Just wanted to say quick good morning. So good morning to GH Stubbs.
Good morning. And so we had to say, hey, you know what? We're not going to try and like overbearingly correct somebody every time they say that. But what we're going to first and foremost represent is that you have a traction device or a traction aid. And that if you want to call it a locker, that's okay. But realistically, there's actually a whole myriad of different options within the umbrella of traction aids.
Yes.
And open just simply means that, as the grumpy old man Rob Morgan might say, that basically if one wheel spins free on sleet, slush, snow, ice, rain, inclement conditions, mud and such, that you have lost all of your power transfer through that open differential.
Yep.
So something within the axles, and we could have a whole conversation of axle vernacular in of itself, but that might be yet a different program.
Yep.
When it comes to our Jeep community, one of the things that I believe is so fascinating is the 2-letter designations or the insignias at which we kind of categorize our models.
Yes.
And there's a lot of folklore around where those 2-letter designations come from.
In fact, if you go back to a couple years ago during a Christmas series, I believe we talked about these.
We did.
And explained what they meant and our theories on where that all came from.
We talked about them in depth as an entire program. So for today, Scott, what do you got to add just as a succinct, I mean, without twitching? I see your eyes just welling up.
Well, basically, most military vehicles use letter designations, and because Jeep inherently started as a military vehicle, I think that's where it came from, and it was just really easy after the military series to say, oh, that's a civilian Jeep or a CJ, and that's kind of the rest was history. I think
I think it's fascinating because, quite frankly, a lot of people kind of they don't recognize that. And I actually just literally had this conversation with a customer who walked into the showroom the other day. I just just happened to get involved in the conversation that they were having with Jeffrey, because they have, the Jeep world that they're exposed to has Wranglers and Gladiators and Patriots and Compasses and Renegades.
Yep.
And so for the last 30 to 40 years, we have these model names.
Yep.
But realistically, Jeep wasn't particularly creative over 40 years ago, because this individual, they pulled up a picture of a vehicle, and I'm like, what is this? And before they pulled up a picture, they were like, well, what kind of truck do you think he has? And I was like, well, there was a Gladiator truck produced in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, it's not called a Gladiator. And, they didn't have a picture available at that point.
Yep.
So I was like, all right, well, it is what it is. Well, the thing is, they pulled it up, and I said, well, it could be a J truck.
Mm-hmm.
They pulled it up, and it's a J truck. I said, what's a J10, J20, J30? And they were like, well, no, what is it? And I was like, it's a J10. And they were like, but no, like, what do you call it? Like, is it a Renegade? Is it a Gladiator? Is it? No, it's a J10. It's just not that creative.
Yeah.
And I was fortunately able enough to expand their picture big enough to actually bring up the badge on the side that said J10, you know? But even I had somebody ask me about the Willys Jeep trucks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what do they call that? Jeep truck.
Jeep truck.
So to say that CJs were CJs all the way up through 1986 is true. I see a lot of people want to try and call them Wranglers because they're convertible.
That's the closest thing they know.
It's the closest association, but that's not actually right. It's just kind of plain Jane.
Almost every Jeep
CJ.
model has a 2-letter destination, except for some of the full sizes, which then is just an FSJ.
Literally what I told this individual. I was like,
100%.
yep.
So,
Which also not that creative.
FSJ for full-size Jeep. What I think is most interesting about the 2-letter insignias is that other than knowing it from being in the industry, there's not any good representation of it. It's not in the VIN code. It's not something that you're going to find on the vehicle.
Well, and because we're longtime Jeepers, we even remember the controversy of the LJ and how Chrysler corporate said that, well, that was an internal destination, but wasn't.
It was TJL technically,
Yeah,
what they
technically that,
claimed it.
But it was on your option code tag that was on my grill. But anyway, I digress. So a lot of them, I've actually seen some kickback of like, well, why are you guys so in love with the 2-letter destinations? We just use them internally. That's fair. And other manufacturers do also have codes or that goes along with chassis and that stuff, so it's easier for them to differentiate between one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sorry, you set the precedence in 1946 with CJ, and we're just going to continue to beat that horse.
I think it's like being part of a club and knowing the secret handshake, if you will.
Correct.
Yep.
Right? I mean, there's a reason as little kids. That's one of our inherent things that we want to do is we kind of develop a secret handshake, a password of
How
sorts,
elaborate
right?
was your secret handshake?
It was pretty elaborate.
I'm sure it was.
Honest. Let's be honest.
10 minutes later, you finally finished it.
There was booty shaking and legs were swinging around. I mean, it was a full body workout to do my
Why did I
handshake.
know yours would be that
Oh
elaborate?
yeah, for sure. Man, I was about to say we got to do that. We got to do that after hours SFJ.
Oh boy.
Boy. So you could ask my wife what our elaborate handshake
we're
is.
just gonna move right on.
So as far as these insignia letters and namesakes, I think it's part of being in the in crowd. It's the club.
And
right?
if you want to be in the in crowd and don't know how to do that, just stop by. We'll hand you a magnet that's got all the abbreviations on there for you.
Yep. And
With the years.
With the years that are best, closely matched to them.
You may need a magnifying glass if your name's Neil, but otherwise, it's all there.
Yeah. But I wanted all of the ones on there. So I was like, we gotta do what you gotta do.
There was a lot.
There's a lot.
Yep.
So that's kind of the industry insider piece. I think when it gets to and you brought up the TJL, and I think this is a valuable moment to also mention the unlimited, right? Because I hear unlimited, and for the longest time, our industry accepted limited as a package.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, Jeep was like, but wait, here's an unlimited, which has nothing to do with power, mirrors and doors and leather and moonroofs.
No.
Unlimited was simply in that sense meant to designate a wheelbase.
Yep.
Yes.
And I think it's funny about the J trucks, if I go back to that briefly, the 10s, the 20s, and 30s has nothing to do with how we now categorize trucks as half tons, 3/4 tons, and 1 tons. It equally had to do with wheelbase.
Well, J10, J20, J30 did talk about the weight. J2000, J3000, 4000
Good clarification.
was wheelbase.
Was wheelbase.
What?
And then ultimately you had J10 shorts and J10 longs.
And I apologize because I've been trying not to go too far, but then Neil did a grievous
error.
and my eye couldn't take it no more.
Fair.
So
So the unlimiteds mean what?
So in 04.5 to 06, that means a really cool long wheelbase TJ that has a lot of cool Jeep accessories that, like a Dana 44 rear axle, a limited slip, that kind of stuff.
a long Jeep, hence LJ.
So, and someone decided that when they were making the 4-door in the JK world, they were like, well, let's just keep running with the unlimited and stick that on there. And we'll just, it's still the long Jeep. We just added 2 doors and it broke the Jeep.
It broke the Jeep market.
Yeah. And then there's some people
The
like
outrage.
yes, dude, can you even get a 2-door anymore? And
Right.
now it's a minivan.
Right. Because to that point, it was just a long 2-door.
Yes.
Right. And so people were expecting a long 2-door out of the JKU.
Yep.
But
Which-
instead it was either a 2-door JK
Mhm.
or a 4-door JKU Unlimited.
Yes. And here we are pushing 20 years later, and
Yes.
we still never got our long 2-door in a JK or JL
No.
Somebody
Or even
seems
a
a little
JK.
sad over there.
or JT. No,
It ended
Salt.
an
Little hurt.
era.
salty. Well, my wife's Jeep
Mhm.
is a mall crawler.
Yep.
So what does it mean when you're a mall crawler?
Means that you build it still, but you never take it off road.
Pavement princess.
There you go.
Same thing.
Same thing.
It may mean I grew up with all these jacked up, mostly Chevy trucks, not personally, but out in the roads, and you would see giant wheels and high lifts with these little bitty toothpick axles. There's another one for you,
Mm-hmm.
and is the best way I can describe a mall crawler because they are worried about the look, the impression of toughness, while actually not having anything robust at all underneath the Jeep or truck because we ain't going there. We don't need to do that.
It's putting 40s on a JL without actually lifting it to articulate for those 40s.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Which, has been a popular thing. Some characters jump online, they turn to the social pages and they go, look at what I can do, guys. And,
Yes.
they're still running around on a 30 and a 35 Advantech, which are nice axles, but not really meant for 40s.
Yes.
And
And then you also have like this JKU I saw the other day that was on, I think, 37s, and he had a half an inch between the top of the tire and the bottom of the fender flare. And I was like, man, you hit a hard chuck hole. That fender's gone.
a chuck hole?
That's what I'm not.
Or
I mean, this is
pothole.
the linguistic, a chuck hole.
I don't know
said
that I've
chuck
heard-
hole before. And
Yes.
I don't know that I've ever heard it called a chuck hole.
has anybody else ever
Why-
called a
why is it
pothole
called a chuck hole?
chuck hole?
Because you chuck around.
It honestly makes more sense than a pothole
I
than
wish
that.
I wish that our listeners could have seen you and your little chuck around dance that you just did. Because this is a moment, I don't know, timestamp it, go back, find this on YouTube, and watch Scott do the closest thing to dancing you'll ever see in your life.
Yes.
That I want to
fair.
see him chuck hole more often.
Right? We're gonna do the chuck hole.
Do the chuck hole. Scott's a chuck hole. So now the thing is, and I think it's interesting within our industry, is that we are one of the few industries who, well, I shouldn't say that, but it's like a grievance if you just like the way the vehicle looks.
Now,
We-
I'm going to add to that because Joe O'Brien literally just said an Amazon special is a mall crawler. So Amazon special is literally another terminology that we should talk about.
Interesting.
That's a
'cause-
great choice of
Interesting
words.
enough, because my wife's Jeep is not an Amazon special, but I openly admit that it's a mall crawler. In fact, the modifications I put on my wife's Jeep
Are still functional.
are both functional and expensive, right? I mean,
Yes.
we have authentic KMC beadlocks, we have RSC Gen 3 sliders, we have the Nacho fog lights, we have a full fishbone wrap of fenders, bumpers, blah, blah, blah.
I think
I'm just never going to off-road it.
so. I genuinely believe in your situation, yours is built to be able to do all the off-road things, but you know it never will, which is why you've deemed it that name.
So it's
Right.
a hardcore mall crawler.
It's a hardcore. And actually probably could do that because I have RK suspension and iron rock on that. Yeah, the whole shooting match, right? It's a hardcore mall crawler.
Correct. Versus just your generic pavement princess mall crawler that is an Amazon special.
Or the Amazon special, right? Which is where we get into the derogatory, where it's just the most economy band-aided up, like you said, the toothpick axle type builds. And, you know, I guess for me and my admittance to the having a mall crawler is because I have other vehicles that are obviously not, right? That were the intention to wheel them. But as a person who likes to wheel old pieces of junk as well, I know what things can do kind of in their bone stock, you know, configuration.
Yes.
Speaking of bone stock, I mean, there's another phrase that we use, just stock, right?
Yeah.
We call them bone stock.
And Daddy Jeep has just said that dance has to make the updated intro. So for Davey, we're going to have to notify Davey that is going to be in the new intro when we revise that.
It's unfortunate.
So
That's not
when we
unfortunate.
talks
That's
about
just fantastic.
when we talk about these Amazon specials, these mall crawlers, you know, I oftentimes see people online get really hyped up, very excited. They just want to share some positivity. They jump onto the social page, whatever communal group that they're involved in, and say, I started my builds. Here's my first mod. And it's putting some seat covers on.
Yes.
Or maybe they've bought off of Amazon some color coordinated trim pieces for their interior.
So what's mod mean?
So what is a mod?
You took something factory original off your Jeep and put something aftermarket on it.
So a mod is a modification.
Yes.
And you know what?
And
Again, we derogatorily look upon a person who's doing an Amazon special mod.
Now,
And you see it on social page from time to time again, because you see a person who just wants to buy a graphic package or a little trim piece. And like, look at my first mod. And people are like, that's dumb.
Now, I personally had ordered a lift kit and entire wheel package for my Gladiator, but while waiting on that to arrive, I literally put the Jurassic Park dinosaurs chasing the Willys silhouette on the windshield, and I posted on it and said, look, I did my first mod. And I did it to be funny because I know that that's not modification. But
How did people respond to that?
well, most people loved it. But that's besides the point, because I think it was presented in a way that it was meant to be funny, and that there was a consensus that I was still working on building actual things to this Jeep, not just putting a graphic package on
well,
it.
and that enters into a new term, another term, newbie, which is someone new to the
Noobs.
the Jeepdom.
Well, and I think it's funny because, I mean, back in the day, we used to recognize rookie as, you know, or greenhorn, depending on where, you know, what kind of community you were in. Like a greenhorn was somebody who was, you know, wet behind the ears. They were green, you know, whatever. And that kind of gave way in the last 20 years to a newbie. And, you know, with the forums, and you'd be like, oh, newbie here. Or honestly, it was used to kind of cast judgment when somebody asked like a really ridiculous question, or they didn't use the search bar.
What those tires will fit under my new JL.
Yeah, that.
And I have seen like literally groups be formed that this is not for newbies. Pirate 4x4.
Yeah.
Where they were so tired of the how much lift do I need to fit this tire question. They made a whole area just to not have that.
Yes.
Or there'd be people that would be in the comments talking about how they could do this, and that with their vehicle, and somebody else would be like, you're just a noob. That's not actually how this works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, you know, has been, again, you know, kind of derogatory at this point. You know, it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But
Everybody has to start somewhere.
everybody has to start somewhere. I know that as I've kind of gone off and dabbled in other pursuits, oftentimes my first post will be, I apologize for being a newbie, right? Like that's just how we've learned to interact. Or, hey, newbie question, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
As an attempt to kind of transverse, you know, the fact that on the internet culture, you know, a noob or a newbie, you know, can have some derogatory nature to it.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that it has to, but, you know, versus a veteran, right?
Yeah.
So mods and builds and newbies and noobs, all pretty common words that we kind of put out into our community, automotive or Jeep specific. Is there anything else that is like essential to the Jeep community? How we socialize, how we talk about the vehicles, the platforms themselves.
I mean, I think really the next thing is when you start using the Jeep, there's going to be additional terminology to using the Jeep.
Well,
I think that's a separate part of this conversation.
Yeah, and I guess before we get to that, and I know we've talked about this, but the built not bought nomenclature, right?
Yeah. What's that mean?
And I think that
we just did an episode not that long
we
ago.
just did an episode, and so I don't think we spend a ton of time, but for the sake of the conversation, it's been kind of that sentiment has weight and value. Built not bought. It means something, but again, as I brought up in that previous episode, if you hire a general contractor to build a house, you have to go through the process of land surveys and picking out the materials and all that kind of stuff. Societally, we credit you and say, oh, you built your house. Or you get to say, yep, I'm in the process of building my house, whether or not you're actually swinging the hammer or not.
Yeah.
Yep.
Whereas within the automotive community, and this goes for the race community, the classic car community, the whatever, we look down on the person who swipes the credit card for some reason.
Yeah.
And it just will never make sense to me. But I think that we should embrace built not bought and allow people to be like, hey, I had this shop do X, Y, and Z. Most people don't have an engine hone or a line bore to do your camshaft.
I don't think most people know what that is.
Exactly. And you know what? You could say, yeah, I built that engine up. You know what I mean? So why is that okay? Versus, hey, I had this shop do my 12 volt upgrades, and I had this shop build my engine, and I had this guy paint it, and these people do the upholstery.
There's a lot of merit in just knowing what shop to take it to and what is a good work and what's bad work.
And not only that, but knowing what products that you're choosing to put into it so that you make those choices to build it the way you want it to build and to function the way you need it to function.
Right, because ultimately each and every Jeep is a reflection of its ownership in that given time.
Yes.
So now that we're actually using the vehicle and we're going out somewhere, whether it is to the mall or whether it's the trail, what are some of those words that we
Well, if you're going to go
utilize?
park on the snow mound in the mall parking lot, you need articulation.
Do you need articulation?
Depends on the snow mound.
Depends on the snow mound.
I mean, if you're in our area, those snow mounds can get pretty high.
They get pretty feisty. if somebody's already parked on a vertical and you got to park off to the side,
Correct.
Yep.
And you may require some recovery gear if you don't have enough articulation.
There it is.
Or if you have an insufficient amount of bump stop, your tire could contact your inner
bump stop?
fender well.
There's another
and
term.
Could rip that fender off.
Rip your fender off. And what's a fender versus a flare?
Oh, that was such a JK fire when it first came out.
JK owners, you get so fired up. I got fenders.
Yes.
Well, but they're all plastic.
Fender delete. There's another one for you.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
So as far as when we're actually using them and, kind of a actual functional standpoint, I don't care where it's at or what you're doing.
You have a approach angle, departure angle. You have drop-offs,
Lines.
lines,
Spotters.
wheelbase,
spotters.
and there's a whole bunch of things where we could get
Fording. Water fording.
water fording, where we could kind of get
Stacking
totally,
rocks.
Oh my gosh. Stacking rocks? What is he doing?
I don't. He's
stacking dimes over there?
he's off to the side playing in the rocks while we're stacking Jeeps.
No, when you can't make it up a rock
An
face obstacle, you then stack rocks so you can, which is also a bad term. Bad term.
Bad word.
Bad word.
Bad word. He wanted to use the word is
He was like a little cat over there just pawing it away.
Please use derogatory in a sentence.
I've literally been watching a Jeep try to go up something, and they're like, "Oh, well, they had to stack rocks.
How dare they?
How dare they?"
So
That's fair.
articulation is just going to be the motion in the ocean of how your suspension moves.
Yes.
Right. And sometimes you have good articulation, sometimes you have an insufficient amount, but ultimately it's just the nature at which your suspension moves.
Now, when just back into the stacking rocks comment, it actually made me think with the spotters and the lines, driver and passenger.
It depends on where you're at.
Just whatever side of the vehicle the driver's on and whatever side of the vehicle the passenger is on, that it becomes the driver and the passenger becomes the passenger. This has never been hard for me.
I know, but there's so many people that you're spotting for and you yell driver and they're like, what? No.
I agree with
No.
you. I understand that.
Turn your wheel
Turn
towards the driver.
And they turn towards the spotter. And I'm
Yeah.
like, why? No, that doesn't. You're the driver right now. And this is the thing. And this is, I'm going to just settle this debate because it's not a debate. This is the fact. This is the word. The left side of the vehicle in America is where the driver sits. The right side of the vehicle is where the passenger sits.
I'm kind of curious now. In other countries where you drive on the wrong side of the road, I apologize, but that is factual.
Yeah, fair.
What do you use?
Well, because I think it's so fascinating. I think they
Does
just
it
say
switch?
Well, I mean, I think they say the right is now where the driver's at, and the left is where the passenger.
Well,
is. But I don't want to muddy those waters.
Well, they'll just have to message Jeff and tell
Yeah, but
us.
so what happens if you're spotting a right-hand drive vehicle? Are you yelling driver and wanting them to go left, or are you yelling driver and wanting them to go right?
Well, I think you're yelling driver, and you want them to go to their right.
I agree.
You know?
I agree 100%.
And so that's part of being a qualified spotter, which we haven't identified yet, is the person who is on the outside looking at the vehicle and its path or track, the line that you're choosing, which is another word there.
There's a great video of a spotter needing a spotter I sent to Neil last week.
Fantastic.
I got to send it to you, Scott.
I wanted to finish my word of the fact, word of fact here is to say that I oftentimes have to talk with people and be like, well, if I'm standing at the grill looking back at the Jeep, then the left is over here on the passenger side. I'm like, what? That doesn't actually matter. Like, your subjective understanding of this moment doesn't have any bearing or weight for how the rest of the world accepts the vehicle. The left is on in Western culture, the driver's side, and the right is on the passenger side.
Neil has spoken.
Yeah, just because you're standing in the front, you're subjective. I don't care.
Mostly they assume you're sitting in the vehicle and looking forward, and that is left and that is right.
That's the auto manufacturer's kind of accepted
Line
standard.
in the sand.
Yep.
They have spoken.
You don't get to make it about you and how you're looking at this. So there was our piece. Lines in sand, speaking of, is where the spotter makes sense, because ultimately you're picking your line, which
What
when
line
you're
your
off-roading,
tire is going to go over.
correct. The path that you're going to follow through whatever obstacle you are attempting to traverse.
It's finding that imaginary line that, like Scott said, your tire has to follow this line through in order to clear the obstacles.
Which usually looks like the little family circus thing on a trail, but
It does. And when you have a good spotter, which is this individual who can get out of the vehicle, who can then equally know
not get ran over, preferred.
not run over, not fall down on the trail,
Have a general understanding of your vehicle's capabilities
and your capabilities.
and your capabilities as
and
the driver.
communicate clearly, right?
Yes.
And that's another big piece for
A
spotters.
really good spotter will be like, hey, you're about to drop off on the passenger side and you're going to hear a thump. That's a really good spotter.
You're also understanding that a spotter may say, bump it,
Yes.
knowing what that means.
Or goose it,
Goose it, yep.
which means give her the beans for a couple minutes or give her some throttle for a few minutes.
You think bump it is give it the beans?
No, goose it.
Goose it?
He said goose it.
Oh, okay.
Bump
Okay.
it is
I was-
completely different in my
I feel like
opinion.
bump it is different.
Bump it with is that?
Can
with
you do the
some
bump it dance?
inertia?
I was gonna say, Scott is feeling froggy today. Scott, we're gonna make a montage for you, buddy.
No.
Oh my goodness, did you see? It was like look like a
See
skier.
what happens when
for
you
a
give a
second.
guy a Thanksgiving?
He has a turkey hoodie, and now he is on fire for life.
It's only been 4 years. Wait,
Wow.
Oh, folks, that if you know, despite the fact that his jerky hoodie is just not that cool, and my hoodie is super cool because you can only wear his like for 3 weeks. There might be a
Jeff
reason
proves
why.
otherwise.
Halloween's different.
Oh. I just Scott's full of life and dance moves
he
with his
is.
jerky hoodie. All right.
Who knew? We just had to give him a turkey and he was happy.
I had no idea. So
Most people go to sleep after they get
I think,
their turkey.
I think bump it has to do with trying to gain a little bit of momentum or a little bit of utilizing inertia to overcome that obstacle.
Yep.
Like you want to just give it a little bit of goose, just enough to bump over the obstacle.
Correct.
Versus skinny pedal, throttle down, right?
Yeah. Yep.
When in doubt, throttle out. We don't want to give it the beans, right? When in doubt, throttle out is giving it the beans, right? I mean, we've seen
That's
those
when your
videos.
toothpick axles let you down.
Yeah, we've seen those videos online where that person with a reckless abandon is just flogging their vehicle.
Yep.
Would not ever be my recommendation, but if that's what you want to do with your vehicle,
Which then is
so
a
be
good
it.
leadway into trail damage.
Oh, yeah. Pinstripes.
Pinstripes.
trail damage. Anytime you hit an obstacle on the trail, it could be with your top, it could be the bumper, it could be the side of the vehicle, and you impact it. That's typically like a trail damage
or
a trail
something jams up inside a stick, or Daddy Jeep had a very weird, unique experience at Trail Fest this year where just a little tiny plant got in there and shoved stuff around and caused damage. So there's
ripped lines off in the process.
Correct.
Versus pinstriping, which is basically when you're trying to shove 10 pounds into a 5-pound sack
And you're scraping the side of your vehicle
from
or top
I don't know what you're
or
talking
all
about.
sides of the
for
vehicle.
all sides of the vehicle, like Jeffrey.
May or may not have had pinstripes on very many of my
Trying
Jeeps.
to take a school bus down a
I've
cow
been-
path.
I've been good with my current one. No
Yes.
pinstripes yet.
Yeah.
Yet.
Jeff has enough for everyone.
I do. I do.
And so
Just means I'm enjoying
trail
it.
damage and pinstriping trail fix is
Yes.
typically, and this is kind of a fun one where it actually this wording actually has more weight, right? Where we've talked about some of those situations where the wording might have a derogatory weight. Trail fix actually is kind of fun.
It's a Band-Aid.
It's a Band-Aid, which everybody knows is a Band-Aid.
Yep.
And then
Some do.
Well,
Here's your call to action. If you have trail fixes, go fix them.
But then nobody actually does, right?
Right.
They trail fix it sufficiently enough to finish the trail, and then you put the Jeep away for another 3 weeks. You're like, oh, I should go out with my friends. And then you're like, oh, that valve stem is still electrical taped together and it hasn't bled down. I can still wheel it, which I did factually happen as well. So,
was that log still tied to the axle?
yeah. Yeah. So what else is there for... I mean, what's rock crawling? Actually, that's one that kind of gets me fired up
yeah.
constantly.
Rock crawling versus mud bogging versus just trail riding.
Well, and honestly, you can say, trail riding. I've seen people post pictures of a 2-lane dirt road and be like, I was out trail riding, and they've gotten flamed for that.
They have. And, I think that, like, we have become PC in the sense of calling it trail riding. And I think that I still think trail riding is the safest way, especially if you're east of the Mississippi. I mean, I guess if you're participating in a actual organized trail ride, there will be rock obstacles. There might be water crossing or fording. There might be
A little bit of mud here
just a
and
little
there.
bit of mud. A mud bog anywhere in the country is typically where your primary objective is to slosh through kind of the
pit of
deepest,
mud.
murkiest pit of mud,
Yes.
right? And that's bogging, right? Because you're absolutely trying to create rooster tails, which is throwing the mud up high and long out of your tires.
And it's really fun to do, but it's really bad for the vehicle.
Super bad for the vehicle, Joe O'Brien. And
Hip a lot of customers.
yeah, my bad. But you know what? Honestly, the big challenge, my wife loved going off-roading with me because, again, off-roading it kind of contextualizes all of it. When we were dating, and we were going off-roading, we went to a lot of mud bogging type stuff. Now, we didn't go to your classically constructed mud bogs.
I just thought of one. Mud fleas.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Mud fleas are all the people that the truck got stuck and now they have to crawl through the mud to get out.
All right. So, anyways, on that
God,
note,
that was awesome.
We're running out of time for today's show, anyways.
Well,
so,
wait a second. We just finished up rock climbing, right? Or that, because I think one of the things that Jeep played into this a little bit with some of their fancy adjustable suspension.
Yes.
And they put on there rock. And I will forever tell the story that I was at an event where I was with a number of people who were not exactly into the same, they were not into vehicles like I am.
real quick, as you were talking about the mud bogging, Joe O'Brien just chimed in. Who, me? No, Joe, not you.
Not you, Joe. Different Joe O'Brien. So I was at this event, and these were not like really, hardcore off-road people at all. And it wasn't like super awkward, but it was like I didn't have a whole lot in common with a number of the people present, and they were trying to include me, which was nice. It was just a good moment of kindness and camaraderie. And one of the guys was like, yeah, because he knew I was into Jeeps, and kind of asked me something pleasant about it, and I was just said my little piece and moved on. He said, yeah, well, I haven't gone rock climbing in my Jeep yet, but I think I could because it's on the knob on my dash.
Says rock.
And I was just like, what do I do? Because I know that they were driving a brand new Grand Cherokee. And I was just like, what? How do I respond to that?
Yeah.
And equally, just a point of caution to a number of our people listening. And so whether you're a customer or a future customer or sharing with somebody else, oftentimes I get people who call in and say, well, I want a lift kit. I want tires and wheels, but I'm not going to do any of that rock climbing. And it's like, yeah, very few people actually do, quote, that rock climbing.
And I think there's a big difference between a few rock obstacles on a trail versus a rock garden.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Rock garden is a long trail that is nothing but rocks the size of your engine. And
they're
bigger.
boulders.
Yes.
They're boulders that you're climbing over and trying to articulate through.
Have a lot of in our general area.
In our immediate market, no. But as you move,
as you
out
go
east, west, you have a bunch of rock, and then as you go east, where all that glacial deposits, because they dropped a bunch of boulders, and so some of the impactful but eastern wheeling
on
has
the eastern
big boulder
side,
rock
it's going to be more of a one trail or two trails. Where out west, you can just go days and days
and play on rocks
on rocks.
And and there's different wheeling and wording that goes with that, but unfortunately we are winding down in the program, so I'm curious for our listeners, what words did we miss? Right, there's a lot. There's a lot.
What words do you want to learn more about? Why are they used the way that they're used? Things like that, or words that as a newbie that you've heard and you just never understood what that actually means.
This is a safe space. We will answer your questions.
We will, and we'll take it on the chin because A, we probably made the mistake ourselves at one point in time or another, or two, we're just going to laugh it off regardless because we've done some really cool things, and when we talk about it, other people seem to appreciate it.
And we've done some really dumb things. So
and
we may have learned some of those terms from doing those dumb things.
Huh.
I'm just saying.
That's fair. And I was going to say, we do have floating around, one of the things that we initially started with SFJ when we went out was we had this glossary of terms. Mm-hmm. We may still have that kicking around. So if you
I think we need to reproduce it at this point.
We have talked about that, and we probably will maybe for the coming show season, so we have that card to hand out. I actually know a number of people. It's amazing because we first started distributing that somewhere around 2013, 2014. So that's 10, 11 years ago. And I know a number of people who've pulled that tattered piece of paper out of their recovery bag. It was red cardstock.
I don't know how those still exist in some of these vehicles.
It's amazing
Right?
to see people still pull these. It was a off-road packing checklist that my sister had put together, and a fun glossary of terms, which was a pretty
we
neat
should do
thing.
a laminated version or something
We
that'll
should
hold up a
a
little
nice
better.
oil resistant or something. You know,
yeah.
people throw it in their recovery bag or their onboard toolbox, glove box, whatever. So. But we want to hear from you. So, tell us what terms we missed, or maybe we got one wrong and you've got a different understanding of it. You can email Jeffrey directly, JEFFC at SFJ4x4. Don't expect an immediate response back because he'll be at Las Vegas time. Or you can text us on our text-only number, 440-855-2100. We'd love to hear from you. I think that about wraps it up. If you want to hear about our weekends, you might want to hang in there for a few more minutes and hear what kind of shenanigans we got ourselves up to. But otherwise, I had a lot of fun talking about the art of linguistics. Anything else for the good of the order?
I think that's it.
Until next time, Jeep on.
Jeep on.
Jeep on.
You were really feeling some type of way with your jerky hoodie.
Well,
You had moves.
That's why people should get this specific hoodie, just not in the turkey gravy color.
Anyway,
Have Savage rework that.
yeah, that was fun. I don't know about you guys, but I had a lot of life in the last week.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was actually sitting here trying to process about what I'm not even talking about because it's been so crazy.
Well, did you end up going trick-or-treating, first of all?
Oh, he absolutely hung you out to
I
dry.
know he did.
He did.
I know he did. So I'm calling him
and
out because my wife tried
I've
to
been holding
coordinate
on to
twice.
it. I bit my tongue. I asked him that night, and he was like, "Yeah, I went to."
I know
I'm
because
just be quiet because I know Jeffrey's in his feelings.
no, my wife is in her feelings because she doesn't reach out to go do things very often, and she felt that twice she got blown off by you guys.
So to be fair, we're pretty free spirits, so we do random stuff all the time, and I apologize.
I want you to know he was not that way when I first met him.
I know.
Okay.
And it was legit raining at one point.
No, it wasn't.
I literally I told you, and we had like,
I know.
and I
know.
I don't.
Greg and I are like, no, it didn't rain.
And it was like, it didn't rain. And I trick or treated with some people who were like, oh, yeah, it was raining. And it was like Saybrook,
I
Austin.
wish
I
I
don't know,
could
somewhere.
have show you the dust rain spots on the car, but I polished those off to go. What was it? To Ashtabula area trick or treat with the car.
Oh, Saturday night.
Yeah.
So I can't prove to you that it rained, but it totally rained.
It did not. It was the most beautiful, spectacular
It was like
weather.
specifically
the
3:30 to 4 o'clock. As me and my wife were on throttle down trying
I'm
to
gonna be honest, and I'll probably get yelled at later for talking about this. But she literally was messaging with your wife a lot on Saturday. Your wife actually started it, and then Kristen goes, "Oh, hey, there's a mall trick or treat happening before the actual trick or treating hours. Would you guys, just to let you know about it?" That was it. Your wife never responded to her again.
tapped out.
She's like,
Amy's like, I don't even know what I'm doing in the next 15 minutes. I'm not.
I was like, she's like, I guess I just don't want to hang out today.
I can't speak for that one because I know
probably
that
best.
I know she did have a headache.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was funny. I'm like, nope,
definitely
they
not
don't want to hang out.
trick-or-treating. Definitely not.
So,
So, anyways, you went out Thursday night, right?
They went out both Thursday and
true.
Saturday. We're just gonna put it out there.
so my wife was really upset that our kids weren't excited to go trick or treating. My son is
our
too
kids
much
were.
like me. He's like, my feet hurt, and we've walked a really long time, and I just want to go back to great grandma and great papa's, and I've got enough candy. And she was not here for it. She's like, lightweights, we were excited. We were running from house to house.
Oh, you were filling pillowcases and then going back and getting another one.
And I told her, I was like, but we had one night. We had to pack it all in one night, get as much candy as you could, and that was it. Where we've got trunk or treats all over the place.
Oh, you're talking
That's
about
fair.
you're talking about now versus then.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
fair. That's
I'm
fair.
with you. I mean, our kids are so saturated with opportunities for
Yes.
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I
lost
think
a little bit of
it
its-
takes some of the little pizzazz out of it because of that.
That's fair. That's
I
fair.
agree entirely.
Yep.
I love how communal trick or treat is, and I understand. I mean, the trunk or treats are fine, and we did the corporate candy crawl is what I like to call it at this point. But I had the best time being outside and going to my neighbors, people that I would not normally associate with, other than just a nice wave.
Yeah.
Now, my most immediate neighbors we associate. But just like people not far from the shop, because we actually trick or treated this neighborhood, and so many people, I think is an interesting trend, is they're not in their house, they're outside sitting on the lawn.
The days of trick or
Appropriately
treating,
interacting with people.
when we were kids, if it was the light was on, you went and knocked.
Yeah.
That's not the case
No.
anymore.
Nope.
No,
No,
they're not outside, or there's not some evidence that they are handing out candy. You just keep moving on.
You know what's funny is we actually kept knocking on the houses with the lights.
Yeah.
Some of them had people inside, and that was okay.
but most of them don't.
A number of them didn't. My kids were so disappointed. They were so excited to knock and try and get somebody to come and trick or treat their house.
It was the opposite for us. We were like, almost a little spooky. Who's going to come to the door?
Well, there's a warm up period.
Yeah.
I think there is, but eventually, as we got through the evening, it was like, okay, well, I just want to go knock on the door. I want to see if somebody will come out. But I couldn't believe how many people were just sitting in lawn chairs or with little tables.
And then our
It was
neighborhood,
such beautiful weather though.
it was spectacular.
in our neighborhood, there was a little old lady who her outside light burned out. We literally walked past the house, no decorations, no light. We're like, obviously they're not doing candy. And she yells out, "Hey, I've got candy over here.
Yes.
You skipped me." And my kids are like, "Well, your light's not on." And she looks at her light, goes, "Oh, it was on. It must be broken."
Oh, jeez. Yeah, we had
And we don't get a lot of trick-or-treaters in our neighborhood, so all the people that get to, I mean, they're handing out scoops of candy.
Yes.
They're so excited to see the kids.
I absolutely had a guy handing out cans of Coca-Cola. You know what I mean? And I think he
We
was
got
the same
box
way.
theater candy from the one house.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We had one house that had an option of a Pokemon card, a real wooden Harry Potter wand,
Ooh.
or something else. I can't remember which, because
That's really fun
One
for
of
the
my
kids.
kids got a Harry Potter wand, and one of them got a Pokemon card.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's really, really fun.
And then yet another lady hand crocheted a little worm, made it in a bag, had a little story along with it. It was the cutest thing.
That is awesome. We
That's
had
fun.
we gave out. My parents did glow sticks, like glow necklaces and stuff like
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
and candy. I had a house that did s'mores.
Oh,
I thought it was really fun. They had a fire going. I actually did it myself years ago, in a different community, and I thought that was the best. Like, they had music going. I mean, it was a party, right?
Oh,
It was
yeah.
basically a party, and they were doing s'mores for people.
And that's, so we did come up on a house that was doing similar, where it was like a party. So we were like, are they doing candy? And we just kind of walked the sidewalk until we saw somebody get up and start walking towards. And then I was like, okay, yeah, go ahead and approach it.
I
Because I didn't want to interrupt somebody's party.
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, these people are actually set up with like stations. So
and
it was
that
a
would-
party-like atmosphere, but they were absolutely there to make memories for people trick-or-treating.
So something my kids got that I've never seen before, and it just completely blew Amy's grandma away. They both got socks.
What?
Where the heck did you guys go trick
Where
or treating?
did you go trick-or-treating that you got
Down the street from Jeff's
wooden
house,
Harry
basically.
Potter? So not only did they stand you up, but they basically went to your neighborhood.
I'm done. I'm done.
Holy! Now you know where you stand with it.
Wow.
Amy's
Wow.
grandparents live down State Road, not in the same actual area.
I don't feel good all of a sudden. I don't want to be in on this.
The sad part
We're
is
done.
the kids were
I'm not even
so
talking about trick or treating anymore.
the kids were so
So,
whiny.
Jeffrey, did you do anything exciting over the weekend?
Apparently not. Nope.
The kids were so whiny. By
Actually-
the time we got the Spring Street, I almost had to carry them back.
So honestly, the highlight of our weekend, besides trick or treating without Scott's family, was we took some time yesterday to drive to Erie because my aunt and uncle entered a raffle that they had no idea what the prize was for. Turns out it was for
Oh, they are.
Steelers football tickets.
Yes.
Golf
So-
tickets.
Sports balls.
So my uncle would be much of the same mantra. I don't think he would know what a football was if it landed in his lap.
Right.
So they gifted it to me because I run the nonprofit in memory of their son.
Oh, this is that aunt and
Yep.
uncle.
So they
Okay.
gifted me the 2 tickets.
Okay.
Well, the organization that was doing the giveaway had digital tickets, and they had no idea how to send them to me.
Oh, geez.
So, and it was a very, very nice lady from a church organization that was doing this raffle. And we met in Erie to transfer these tickets. And she's like, "Oh, you'll probably do it in like 30 seconds. No, like 15 minutes later, we finally got the transfer to go through.
Wow.
And she just looks at me. She's like, "I'm so glad you didn't do that in 30 seconds because it made me feel better."
Right.
And I'm like, honestly, I had no idea what we were getting
So now
into.
you are officially in possession of these tickets.
Yeah, they're
What
club seats.
No.
Yeah.
What a dream. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
For the
So-
non golf game people, what does that mean? What
So-
does club seats mean?
So club seats means that you have access to the clubhouses within the stadium, so you can go in and get specialized food and beverages and enjoy an enclosed area.
You don't have to walk with all the other animals in the stadium
Right.
or arena or whatever it is. You get your own little walkways where it's less
Yep.
congested and everything.
does that mean you get more of the candy food people as well?
Yes, you get dedicated
Yes.
people serving your area and
Yeah.
everything, and
Uh,
then you go into like a lobby area, which is going to have all of your own concession stands and your own. I had a couple when I was in Pittsburgh. I had a couple different opportunities, and I mean they actually had whatever event, and I don't exactly recall. It actually had a curated buffet.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
I honestly, I have never gone to a live game for the Steelers. And Steelers are obviously my favorite team, but this is a Steelers versus Browns in Pittsburgh on December 8th. So I was like, this is going to be a really
what's
cool
up, man.
opportunity. And my son wanted to go, Xander, and I was very hesitant about it. So I ended up asking my dad. He's going to go with. I think it's great for him to be able to go to the
Awesome.
game.
Awesome.
But it's going to be in December in an outdoor stadium. This is something that Scott would never, ever do. Because it's going to be cold. We're
Right.
going to be out there at 1:00 in the afternoon, freezing our butts off, but enjoying a nice, it's along the end zone, at the corner of the end zone. So we'll be looking in at the whole stadium. You get a very good view of the stadium. I'm pretty excited about it.
Actually brings up a good 2-second story. When I was,
I don't want to
think
hear your stories.
in junior high,
We're not friends right now.
my cousin drugged me to a baseball game at Jacobs Field, and it was like middle of the summer or August or something. I don't know. It was hot as heck, no shade,
Yeah.
lines for everything, and I was like, why do people do this?
You know what's the most interesting about going to professional games is that you don't realize how much downtime there is at the game because of the commercial breaks for
Yes.
TV. Like the first time I went to a pro game, and it was like every couple minutes, the momentum would just be going, and all of a sudden, TV break. What?
Yeah,
You don't think about it when you're watching it on TV.
Yeah,
You think that they incorporate the commercials.
it's like time for a nap.
yeah. It's crazy how much downtime there is and loss of momentum
Yeah,
because of TV commercials.
Well, the whole atmosphere is different, but I like that they keep everybody hyped up. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And there is a lot of fun environment stuff that happens when you're at them. I mean, I think that like anything, it's life in moderation. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So,
Yeah.
just like we've talked about in the past, going to, a 400-acre car show and walking for 3 days till your feet bleed on the hot pavement.
right.
I'm down to do that maybe once a year, and then
Yeah.
I'm down to go to a like some type of pro or minor game also probably once or twice a year.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think it's all about life in moderation, or maybe that's just me.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
And it's it's one of those I've wanted to go for a long time to a sports game, Steelers game specifically. But at the same time, I've had reservations because I know that I'm going to prefer to watch it on TV. It's
Yeah.
just about I want to go and experience that at least once.
You're probably actually going to have a worse viewing experience at the stadium than
without question. Without
Yeah.
question. But
And
it's the environment, and it's
and
about
that's-
enjoying the environment.
And that's exactly it. And I mean, we talked about, previously when we went to Mecum, last year, there's something you can watch Mecum in the auction on TV. You
Yep.
can see the vehicles just the same, just like you can see the sports game. But, there's something about being in that space.
Yeah.
It's a concert. I can listen to a song on the radio, but I go to the concert for a different reason.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I think it's kind of I think it's cool about being human and how we can like the same thing but experience it differently, you know?
Yeah.
I just worked outside all weekend. I took advantage of the weather.
Did you get the sheathing up on the
I
shed?
did. I did.
Just started on the
I
roof?
did that in the middle of the night yesterday, actually, because I was working through the secret garden and trying to finish the secret garden.
Did you get the last box built?
I got the last box built. I got everything leveled up and shored up. I got, I started to fill things in and smooth out the ground. And
While you were leveling and shoring, did you level and shore the
no.
Permanent.
It's permanent
temporary
on your
legs? Temporary legs.
Ugh.
Permanent.
I looked at them and I thought, I should really do that before I sheath it. And then I thought, no, I'm just going to sheath it and move on,
Jeff's ice twitching.
Yep.
All I'm saying is that when the legs just randomly fall off,
He'll drag it to a more flat area with the tractor.
That's what I'm thinking.
I'm not responsible.
That's what I'm thinking.
I gave all the disclaimers. This is temporary. It's a trail fix.
And I have a couple trail fixes that are still holding in like 5 years later. So,
Bill's in our comments saying about Renegade when they play Renegade at the stadium, how awesome that is. And honestly, Bill, to your credit, that is one of the things that I am truly looking forward to is that experience.
that's going to be a good time.
I've got a couple terrible towels I'm going to take and give one to my dad, even though he's not a Steelers fan. He's a Raiders fan. I'm like, you got to wave this. And we're sitting in the visitor side, by the way. So it's going to be awesome.
That's going to be a little awkward.
Meh.
In the Steelers stadium, there's never actually a visitor. In any stadium that the Steelers play in, they take over the stadium.
Just don't wear your
true.
orange hoodie there because,
Oh no, this will not exist. Davey, the last week I walked in after the Browns actually won a game, and he's like, "Oh, I see you're wearing your Browns attire." I'm like, "Shut up, Davey."
Spoke like a true Steelers fan. Without further ado, Jeep on.
Jeep on.
Jeep on.